So what is this molecule I mentioned? Well, there's this molecule in our brain, a chemical or neurotransmitter, comprising carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and a single nitrogen atom, also known as dopamine. Now, you may have heard of dopamine or even know about it a bit, but hear me out, because I'd like to discuss it from a Muslim perspective. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that helps send messages between nerve cells in the brain. It's often called the molecule of more because it makes us want things and pursue goals, a very important reward system that motivates us to do stuff, like finding a spouse, earning a living, or even doing a good deed. But sometimes this reward system can get out of balance, and that's where addiction comes in. See, the thing with dopamine is that it's never satisfied. It feeds the void that we all have within us, only instead of satisfying the void's hunger, it makes it hungrier, which reminds me of a hadith where it was narrated by Sahal bin Sa'd. I heard Ibn Az-Zubair, who was on the pulpit at Mecca, delivering a sermon saying, "O men," the Prophet ﷺ used to say, "if the son of Adam were given a valley full of gold, he would love to have a second one. And if he were given the second one, he would love to have a third. For nothing fills the belly of Adam's son except dust, and Allah forgives he who repents to him." SubhanAllah, that sounds a lot like dopamine. I can't help but think of dopamine as a physical representation of our nafs. In Stephen Pressfield's book, The War of Art, he explains what he calls the resistance, which he describes as an internal struggle. It's that voice inside that tells you to procrastinate, instills fear and doubt, and comes up with excuses why you shouldn't do your work, especially work of a moral or spiritual sense. As Muslims, we would think of this concept as our nafs. In science, we think of it as dopamine. Just about everything you hear online regarding personal development, self-help, and health is from Islam. In the world of content creation, we call it stealing like an artist. Returning to internet and technology addiction, they're designed to release dopamine in the brain as we scroll through posts, videos, or even wallpaper apps. That constant context switching from one post to another releases dopamine as we anticipate a reward. It's like a slot machine, roulette table, or even bingo. That waiting for the result fires dopamine. This concept is also known as prediction error. Now let's compare dopamine and our nafs, kind of a side-by-side comparison. They're both involved in reward and pleasure, motivation and reinforcement, movement and motor control, which is a basis for survival, cognition and attention, also survival, mood and emotional regulation, and the ability to lead us to temptation and evil. It's like they're roommates. And this could be good news because it lets me know there's a physical aspect of myself that I can control to a degree. You know what I mean? Like maybe it's not all supernatural and out of our control, tying our camels. I find it interesting how Allah appears to refer to the prefrontal cortex in the Quran, which states, "No, if he does not desist, we will surely drag him by the forehead," a lying, sinning forehead. Now, I may not be pronouncing this right, but I think it's the word nasiya, which means forehead or forepart of the head. Now, what does the PFC do, the prefrontal cortex? It plays a crucial role in the regulation and modulation of dopamine activity in the brain. The PFC, prefrontal cortex, is the anterior part of the frontal cortex and is involved in higher cognitive functions, decision-making, goal-directed behavior, and executive control.